Hello Yu-Gi-Oh players and welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJB0. So yesterday, or 2 days ago I think, I gave you guys my pure Thunder family deck. And today, as promised, I am going to be giving you guys my Watt Thunder family deck. This is the version of the deck that I know how to play the best since I played it at multiple competitive events and done pretty well with. This is the version that I am using currently, and there are a couple of changes I might make to it, and I will get to that at the end, but really, in all reality, a lot of this is still kind of experimental right now. So why don't I get right down to the deck profile. So first off, you've got your triple Thunder Seahorse. I do not need to explain that. Then you've got your Thunder family lineup, which consists of exactly 3 Ma Hunders, 3 Pa Hunders. You don't run Sis Hunder in this deck because it is unnecessary to the strategy. It doesn't have very much synergy with some of the other cards in my deck, and it's slower than the engine that is most important, which is Triple Watt Cobra. Triple Watt Cobra is the MVP of this deck. I would run 6 if I could, because he's just so good. You put a Thunder family monster on the board and put this guy on the board. You attack directly with your Watt Cobra, and you go for a 1-for-1 Xyz monster. You can just sit on this guy with some back row to protect him, and you can just keep getting pokes and pluses in, and he's just really good to get early game. You don't need Thunder Seahorse as much for this deck because of Watt Cobra, because Watt Cobra just puts so many monsters in your hand in the first place that you don't need Thunder Seahorse as much, so you don't need to run Duality in this build. So then you've got your double Watt Giraffe, which is your primary search target for Watt Cobra, if you know that you have access to another Watt Cobra. Watt Giraffe basically makes your Xyz plays invincible. So you put a Thunder family monster on the board with a Watt Giraffe, poke directly with the Watt Giraffe, and then during your main phase 2 you can just overlay for a Paladynamo or an Arc Knight, Shark Knight, whatever. If I had an Exciton Knight, this card would be even better, but I don't have an Exciton Knight. Anyway, so this card is amazing, especially against decks like Evil Swarms, Constellars. So then, you've got your final monster of the deck, which is One Honest, which is in there for obvious reasons. So that's your monster count. I think I have, let's see, it's 369 plus 5, that's 14. So you have 15 monsters in this deck. Then you have the spell lineup, which starts off with triple recycling batteries. I explained this in my last video where I said that I don't understand people who don't run 3 of the best card in their deck, and recycling batteries is definitely the best card in this deck, especially for Watts, which run out of monsters really quickly because they just burn through them. It makes a lot of sense to run that triple recycling batteries. It's nice to have on standby, and really if you have this and just like 1 Watt Cobra, you will have plays to make for the rest of the game. Then you've got triple MST to deal with the problem cards. That's especially like Harpy's Hunting Ground. That's a real problem for this deck. For Abyss Sphere, basically MST has an application against every deck, so it makes sense to run 3 of them. Then you've got triple Messenger of Peace, which is really good for this deck because no matter how many monsters your opponent puts on the board, what kind of Xyz monsters they put on the board, you will have Messenger of Peace, and you can just keep poking directly with your Watt Cobra. It's only got a 100 life point cost, and even if they get rid of it with an MST, that's fine because it means that they didn't MST one of your worst back row for them. And if you have Messenger of Peace on the board combined with one of your side deck cards, it's usually an extremely powerful combo, and this card wins me games. Then you've got your 2 one-ofs for your spell lineup. You've got 1 Dark Hole, 1 Book of Moon. So that would be an 11 card spell lineup. And let's go to the traps. First off, we've got the double Threatening Roar. I might be tempted to run 3, just because keeping a Watt Cobra on the board is worth minusing off of a Threatening Roar. But in all reality, I have enough other back row in order to support just having the double Threatening Roar. Then you've got double D Prison, double Mirror Force to stop attacks, protect your Watt Cobras, protect your Xyz monsters, and just to add more removal to the deck. Then you've got double Fiendish Chain. I'm tempted to run 3 of it. It stops plays, and it's just generally a good card. And once again, it's more protection for your Watt Cobra. The more protection you can get on things like Watt Cobra, Watt Giraffe, the better this deck runs. So the fewer monsters your opponent can actually successfully attack with, the better. Then you finally got your Brigade of One-Ups. You got a Bottomless, a Torrential, a Compulsory, 1 Vanity's Emptiness, a Solemn Warning, and 1 7 Tools of the Bandit. I'm including 7 Tools because it takes out Warning. It doesn't stop my traps for the turn, but it can also stop things like Icarus attack, and it can stop Mirror Force when I really need to push through a Watt play. It's just a very good card, and I, once again, might be tempted to run 2 in the near future. So that is the main deck. The side deck is as follows. First off, you've got 2 Violon Prism, just against decks like Mermails and against Dragon Rulers. If you really need to find a way to put like that Stardust Spark Dragon or Crimson Blader on the board, to protect Vanity's Emptiness or something like that, there are matchups in which Violon Prism is absolutely necessary, but generally I don't like to use it in this deck if I can avoid it, which is why I don't put it in the main deck. Then you've got double Maxi against decks like Madolche, Karakuri, etc. It forces your opponent to stop their plays. Then you've got 1 Fossil Dynapatch Cephalo. It's an out for things like Ophion, which this deck tends to have a lot of outs for, but if you put it on the field, like if you normal summon it, it can also block decks like Mermails, Dragon Rulers, Hieratics, most importantly, because they just can't do anything with a normal summoned Fossil Dyna on the board. Karakuris have a major issue with Fossil Dyna. It's just a great card. So then you've got 2 spells. You've got 1 Xyz Encore, 1 D-Fissure. Then you've got a trap lineup that goes 1 Macrocosmos, 1 Soul Drain, 1 Overworked, Dust Tornado, Imperial Iron Wall for 2, and then 2 DNA Surgery. This deck can really take down very stunsy, controlsy decks like Boojins and like Evil Swarms, so you do tend to side against them a lot because they're going to be really popular, especially Boojins in the near future. Then finally I'll move on to the extra deck, which I'm pretty sure is identical to my Thunder Family deck, so if you watched that already, then you can just skip through this. I've got the 1 Blackship Corn, 1 number 101, 1 Diamond Dyer, 1 Starleash, 2 Starleash Paladynamos, 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Gaga Cowboy, a Maestroke, an Omega, and 1 Elagia. Then you've got your Synchro monsters, which are 1 Stardust Spark Dragon, 1 regular Stardust Dragon, 1 Thought Ruler Archfiend, 1 Scrap Dragon, and a Crimson Blader. So that's what the deck looks like. A couple of changes that I might be tempted to make. If I ever got an Exciton Knight, I might replace 1 Paladynamo with it. Once again, I talked about last video how good Crazy Box is with deck Devi against a lot of decks that are going to be really popular in the near future, namely Harpies. A lot of people don't think of Harpies as a deck that loses to deck Devi, but consider the fact that Channeler, Lady 1, and Dancer are all 15 unders, so you can take those out of their hand. If you're playing against spellbooks, you can side in Eradicator to call spells, cause a lot of issues for them. So those are some things that I would consider changing, along with adding some of the cards that I mentioned earlier. Meanwhile, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, let me know why in the comment section below, and then of course discuss what you guys think of Watts. What choices would you make for this deck? And then subscribe for more decks discussion, analysis, and general Yu-Gi-Oh! Shenanigans. Meanwhile, thank you guys for watching Yu-Gi-Oh! and Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJB0, and I got a jet. See you guys.